In their seminal work, Dialectic of Enlightenment, 1944, Theodor W. Adorno and Max Horkheimer introduced the chapter The Culture Industry, Enlightenment as Mass Deception, a profound critique of modern mass culture and its role in perpetuating social domination. Written in the context of World War II and the rise of fascist and capitalist propaganda, this text remains one of the most influential analyses of cultural production in modern society. Adorno and Horkheimer, both members of the Frankfurt School, examine how culture, once considered a realm of artistic expression and critical reflection, has become an instrument of control, pacification, and standardization under advanced capitalism. Historical and intellectual context. Adorno and Horkheimer wrote this chapter against the backdrop of the rise of mass media technologies, including radio, cinema, and television, and their role in shaping public opinion and consumer behavior. The horrors of Nazi propaganda had shown the devastating potential of media manipulation, while the capitalist entertainment industry in the United States demonstrated the power of culture as a commodity. The authors were deeply influenced by Karl Marx's critique of capitalism, Sigmund Freud's analysis of the psyche, and their own observations of mass society's susceptibility to ideological control. Their work is framed by the broader critique of the Enlightenment's failure to fulfill its promise of human liberation. Instead of leading to reason and autonomy, Enlightenment rationality, according to Adorno and Horkheimer, had devolved into instrumental rationality, a logic that prioritizes efficiency, control, and profit over human flourishing. The culture industry defined. Adorno and Horkheimer coined the term culture industry to describe the mass production and commodification of cultural goods such as films, music, literature, and art. Unlike genuine artistic expression, which they saw as a potential space for critical thought and resistance, the products of the culture industry are standardized, repetitive, and geared toward consumption rather than reflection. The culture industry, they argue, is not an accidental byproduct of capitalism, but an integral part of its functioning. Cultural products are designed not to challenge the status quo, but to reinforce it by creating passive, compliant consumers. Entertainment, rather than serving as an escape or a source of critical insight, functions as a mechanism of distraction, pacification, and social control. Standardization and pseudo-individuality. One of the central critiques in the culture industry is the standardization of cultural products. Movies, music, and television shows follow predictable formulas, ensuring their market success while minimizing creative risks. Adorno and Horkheimer argue that this standardization creates an illusion of choice for consumers, who believe they are selecting unique products when, in reality, they are consuming variations of the same commodified patterns. Closely linked to this is the concept of pseudo-individuality. The culture industry promotes the illusion that consumers are unique individuals with distinct tastes and preferences, even as their choices are carefully curated and pre-selected by corporate interests. For example, pop music often relies on repetitive structures and catchy melodies that feel personal and emotionally resonant, but are in fact mass-produced templates designed for maximum commercial appeal. Entertainment as a mechanism of control. Adorno and Horkheimer argue that entertainment serves a dual function. It distracts individuals from the harsh realities of their economic and social conditions, and it reinforces the ideological structures that maintain those conditions. In a society dominated by labor and alienation, entertainment offers temporary relief, functioning like a drug that dulls critical thinking and fosters complacency. The famous phrase, amusement under late capitalism is the prolongation of work, encapsulates this idea. Even in their leisure time, individuals are trapped within the logic of capitalism, consuming entertainment products that reinforce their subjugation rather than challenging it. The fetishization of culture. Cultural products, under capitalism, become commodities like any other. They are valued not for their intrinsic artistic or intellectual merit, but for their exchange value in the marketplace. A blockbuster movie or a pop hit is judged not by its quality, but by its box office returns or chart performance. Adorno and Horkheimer point out that even high art is not immune to this process. Museums, galleries, and concert halls often commodify art, turning it into a status symbol for the elite, rather than a site of genuine engagement. This process reduces culture to a mere tool for social distinction and economic profit. The loss of critical thought. One of the most concerning consequences of the culture industry, according to Adorno and Horkheimer, is its erosion of critical thinking. The repetitive, formulaic nature of mass culture discourages audiences from questioning their social and political conditions. Instead of provoking reflection, cultural products provide pre-packaged answers and emotional experiences that bypass critical analysis. For example, Hollywood films often reinforce simplistic moral narratives, portraying good versus evil in clear-cut terms and resolving conflicts through individual heroism rather than systemic change. This reinforces the illusion that society's problems can be solved within the existing system, thereby neutralizing calls for radical transformation. Adorno and Horkheimer also address the role of technology in the culture industry. Technological advancements have made cultural products more accessible and pervasive, but they have also intensified their commodification. Radio, cinema, and television create a one-to-many communication model, where a small group of producers disseminates content to a passive audience. This technological infrastructure enables not only mass distribution, but also mass control. In an era of constant media exposure, individuals are bombarded with messages that shape their desires, values, and worldviews. Attach relevance in the contemporary era. Although written in the mid-20th century, the culture industry remains strikingly relevant in the age of digital media, social networks, and algorithm-driven content. Platforms like Netflix, Spotify, and YouTube operate on the same principles of standardization, commodification, and pseudo-individuality identified by Adorno and Horkheimer. Social media platforms further amplify these dynamics by monetizing user data and tailoring content to maximize engagement and profit. The illusion of choice persists, but the underlying structures of control remain intact. Moreover, the distraction offered by endless streams of entertainment, memes, and viral content serves the same pacifying function described by Adorno and Horkheimer. In a world of perpetual crisis, climate change, economic inequality, and political instability, mass entertainment often becomes a refuge that discourages meaningful action or reflection. Critiques of Adorno and Horkheimer. Despite their insights, Adorno and Horkheimer have faced criticism for their elitist view of culture and their dismissal of popular art forms. Critics argue that their analysis overlooks the ways audiences actively interpret and repurpose cultural products, sometimes using them as tools for resistance. Additionally, their pessimism about the possibility of meaningful cultural expression within mass society has been challenged by scholars who see spaces of subversion and creativity even within commercialized culture. The culture industry, Enlightenment as Mass Deception, remains a foundational text for understanding the intersection of culture, capitalism, and social control. Adorno and Horkheimer's critique highlights how the commodification of culture serves to pacify individuals, reinforce social hierarchies, and undermine critical thought. In our contemporary world where digital platforms dominate cultural production and consumption, their warnings feel more urgent than ever. While their analysis may lean toward pessimism, it serves as a powerful call to remain vigilant against the subtle ways culture can become an instrument of domination. Recognizing the mechanisms of the culture industry is the first step toward reclaiming culture as a space for genuine creativity, resistance, and liberation.